What is up, Macomb? It's that time, 5 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. It's that time for C4 Sports. It's been a while since we have been on air. So I know you all have missed us, but it's okay. It's our third show of the semester. If you forgot, because it has been a while, my name is Matt, and I am at LManMatt93 on Twitter. Feel free to follow all of us and tweet us your questions live. We'll answer them here live on air when we get to that segment.
And I'm Ryan, and you can follow me at Mason_IL Chief.
Yes, sir. It's good to be back, and I am Darius Hawkins. Y'all can find me on Twitter and Instagram at _Hawk_13.
All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and kick off this show with a little college basketball, since that has been the talk around town lately. If you haven't been watching the tournament, I know you've missed a big one. I haven't watched every single game, but I've kept my hand on the pulse, seeing all the big highlights. What has been your favorite moment from the tournament so far? We'll go ahead and start with that.
Ooh, favorite? I'd have to go with Georgia State.
Yep, absolutely.
It's going to slip my mind with the Hunter.
Yeah.
Last name Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
The father-son combo is, if you can't get excited for a team in the tournament, then it's sad. Because that just shows him crying after they lost, all the emotion he put in, tearing his Achilles, falling off and breaking his cast. He showed more enthusiasm as a coach than you'll see from most coaches ever. I think he truly cared. It helps his son was on the team, but I think he truly loves his kids on the team, and that's probably my proudest moment. Thursday was unbelievable with upsets. Friday kind of went chalk, but people were upset. But you know what? Usually all the upsets aren't on one day, and that's just what happened this one time. And I guess that's the biggest thing I took from it.
Absolutely. I would have to go, and agree with you 100%. R.J. Hunter, Coach Hunter in Georgia State. Even though I picked them to lose that first game, once they won it and the way they won it, I was like, okay, I wish that they made a deeper run. They ended up, losing the second game to Xavier. But, it was all right. So, like you said, Ryan, upsets, a lot of them happened in the first day, including Iowa State. I had them in the Elite Eight.
It was right before, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was the first two set of games.
And they had already lost. And, so if I would have to choose another thing just to say something different, I'd probably say, I like seeing Wichita State beating Kansas this past weekend. I love to see that. I had picked Kansas to actually lose in the first game to New Mexico State, so I'm not surprised that they lost so early. So, just so far, I guess, well, it's nice to see Wichita State win because Kansas refuses to play them, and they're in the same state. And so, just so happens they meet up in a tournament, and Kansas loses to them. So it's nice to see Fred Van Vliet.
They got embarrassed.
Yeah, they got embarrassed. Fred Van Vliet, Ron Baker, and them guys, winning, taking Kansas out the tournament. So I think so far it's actually been a pretty fun tournament as far as in my eyes.
Yeah, I'd have to say you guys picked all the big ones so far. I like to see, obviously Kentucky's been fun to watch them go for perfection, even though I don't want to see them hit that mark because I do not like Coach Calipari at all, or I just can't stand the Kentucky program. In general, I have some, I guess you could say, strong feelings on Kentucky, and I think they're a bit of hypocrites, but we won't get into too much detail.
That could be like a 2-hour show right there.
Yeah, I cannot stand Kentucky or the history behind their basketball program. So, it's interesting to watch. It is history, you could say that. We've never seen something like that before, so it's fun to keep an eye on that.
Well, you've seen, Indiana. I think if Kentucky makes it, I'll still believe that Indiana is the last true undefeated team.
And why is that?
Because they played people. Kentucky hasn't until it's coming up, and I've never agreed with one and dones. And that's not NCAA's fault. That's Stern's fault for doing that. But that's all I've always felt.
Yeah. Well, you can't blame them for that, though.
Yeah, I don't know if you necessarily blame them for who they played. As far as the SEC is weak. Their non-conference schedule, they probably could have scheduled better opponents. But I agree with you. I hope that they lose. Yeah. I don't want to see them win. And I actually like Coach Cal. That's one of my favorite coaches in college basketball because I feel like he treats his players properly. He doesn't lie to them and try to bring them back. He lets them know if you can make money in the league, support your family, do what you have to do. But like you said, man, I've never liked Kentucky's program.
Yeah.
like I said, it's very rare that I ever like Kentucky players, which is why to this day I still like DeMarcus Cousins. That's one of the few players I like in Kentucky. I never really care for Kentucky. Like I'm a guy who I've never liked collegiate powerhouses in basketball. Mm-hmm. So when Indiana, I never really cared for them. I liked when they had Oladipo, and we know that was more recent. Michigan State I have respect for Izzo, but I never necessarily was a fan. It's just big time powerhouse. UCLA, I've never really liked UCLA. I like some of the players in the past, like Aaron Aflalo, but big powerhouses I've never really been a fan of, which is another reason why the tournament is so fun, because you always see upsets, at least one mid-major or just one team that you didn't expect to make a big run. So, I mean,
yeah. Because you don't see that anywhere else.
Yeah,
NBA,
exactly.
You usually have the top 2 teams that you want in there. Well, usually, but you have at least one of the top teams in there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up Wichita State. I mean, that was the one game I was looking for. Forward to.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. On Sunday, because I watched too much basketball. I didn't do any schoolwork on my 4 days. So, and I think I did a pretty good justice. I don't know how I got the picture of it, but on Twitter I had the picture of just Bill Self looking like this, and then I had the caption that goes like, "Thank you, selection committee. This is the reason why I don't play Wichita State. We get embarrassed."
Yeah.
So I think it's good. I'm looking forward to tonight's games.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who's playing?
I got
tonight?
Wichita State plays Notre Dame.
Wichita State.
Wichita State versus Notre Dame. North Carolina.
Hold on. Let's go by game by game.
Okay.
Who y'all have in that game?
Okay, Wichita State versus Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I have Notre Dame facing Kentucky, so I have to go with Notre Dame.
Same here.
I don't care who wins.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be a good matchup. Whoever faces Kentucky. But, yeah, I have to go with Notre Dame. My bracket needs a little help right now.
I have Notre Dame in the Final Four. We're not going to talk about that right now, okay? I had a whole plan of how Kentucky was going to get beat in this upcoming weekend, and that's not going to work because the team I had beating them lost to freaking West Virginia. But like I said, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of games this year. I wasn't going to do a bracket, and then I decided to do one. I was like, I'm just going to choose a whole bunch of upsets and, try to mess it up. But, I mean, it didn't really work out that way. But, yeah. I need help with my bracket a little bit. So I need Notre Dame. They got a nice backcourt. Jaron Grant is their senior, who's probably going to be a mid first round selection. So I hope that they go ahead and take Wichita State. But if Wichita State does win, I would not be upset. I like Fred VanVleet.
Yep.
So I mean, if they win, hey, just keep going.
He's a junior.
Yeah.
Him and Baker are junior, and I thought they were seniors this year.
I thought they were juniors. Yeah, I thought they were juniors last year when they went to the Final
and I was
Four.
like, man, one more year with them. Watch out for next year.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, it looks like Wichita State's going to be the powerhouse in Kansas for at least this year or next year.
Absolutely.
Well, it has been for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I love Wichita State a lot. Obviously, Fred VanVleet might be my favorite college basketball player at the moment. I thought he was done, like you said, last year, and I was a little surprised this year when I started to see some of the highlights and saw him still on the Shockers. At least he didn't go to the NBA even, not only that he wasn't a senior, that he didn't make the jump to the NBA after the great season that he had last year as well as the year before that. So this might be a little bit of anti-Notre Dame bias coming out. Cannot stand the Irish at all. But I'm going to go with Wichita State to pull the upset against Notre Dame. They obviously have the backcourt. I did watch the second half of that Notre Dame-Butler game last weekend, and they got a little bit lucky. They escaped with a win in overtime, I believe it was, against Butler. I remember at the end of that game, one of their post players, I don't remember who, got that big double dribble after he got a rebound, and they gave Butler another chance, and then there was the block at the end right there that forced overtime. But I felt from watching that game, honestly, Butler looked slightly like the better team, especially down the stretch against Notre Dame. And I think it was just maybe the talent of the Irish that pulled it off. But I kind of like the composure and experience of Wichita State as well in this one, from what I have seen, kind of going off past years as well, especially with Wichita State in this one. So I guess that's why I'll choose them at the end of the day. You could just say it's my anti-Notre Dame bias.
Yeah.
Second game we have is Notre Dame. We just did that one. North Carolina versus Wisconsin. I have Wisconsin, but I don't have them going out of this weekend. But I have Wisconsin winning. North Carolina, they're going to be without Meeks, right?
Yeah. He's out.
Comiskey's going to have a heyday. He's going to be able to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. So I have Wisconsin, and the cover is 6.5. I could see Wisconsin winning by double digits tonight with Meeks out.
Yeah, I have Wisconsin like you. This is the last game I have them winning, so I don't have them winning past this because we're gonna get to who they will play next because they also play tonight. But yeah, I have Wisconsin like you said with no Meeks. The size he's basically their biggest player down low. I don't know how well Marcus Page is going to be. I know he's been off and on struggling with injuries this year for North Carolina. So it's really going to be Kaminsky. But I feel like North Carolina has a chance only because Wisconsin, the pace that they play at, I feel like if you play slow sometimes, even though they have the talent, when you play slow, even though you're a good team, sometimes other teams that they play fast, they might mess up your flow. So they might have a chance to lose tonight. But I think they'll get it done. I just think they have better players. And with Kaminsky, I don't think they're going to lose this early.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Wisconsin's my national champion, just to put that, I guess, out there before we even got to that point. But Frank Kaminsky, for me, was the best player, I think, in college basketball this year. And he's a Lisle kid right by Naperville, so I'm a big fan of him as well. And I am rooting for North Carolina just because I kind of grew up a Carolina fan. Not really as much anymore since I haven't been into college basketball as much as I used to be. So I'll be hoping North Carolina pulls it off, but I don't really think they have much of a chance, especially like you guys already stated with the injuries that they have gone through all season long, too. I'm surprised they finished as well as they did, kind of keeping up with them a little bit in the ACC this year. So I think Wisconsin wins this one by a big margin.
All right, we will go to we'll save the big boys for last because I have a little interesting comment for that game. But next, Xavier versus Arizona. I have Arizona winning because I have Arizona beating Wisconsin to go to the Final Four. But I think Xavier will give them a little bit of trouble. Mm-hmm. They looked pretty good in their first two games they've played, which has really surprised me because I don't think I had them winning. I had them winning in the first game because Ole Miss beat. I forget who they beat in that first four game.
Oh, yeah.
BYU. Because if BYU won, I was going to have BYU beat Xavier, but that didn't happen. You got that big boy with the goggle glasses on. I forget his name.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I forgot his name, too.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He gets the ball and puts it right in, and he can go outside. But I think Arizona, their freshman Johnson, is a little too much for Xavier.
Yeah, I have Arizona winning. Also, this is the exact matchup I had Arizona playing Xavier at this point, and I have Arizona winning because Arizona is my national champion. So it would be dumb to say I'm having losing today. But yeah, it's interesting. Arizona beat Ohio State last week, and Ohio State has who probably is my favorite player in college basketball, D'Angelo Russell. I'm a big fan of his, and on top of that, he's left-handed. I stand with my left-handed guards, me being left-handed myself.
Of course.
And last week, Stanley Johnson didn't even play all that well. Especially from the part that I saw. I think I missed a little bit of the end of the game, maybe the last 8 or 9 minutes, something like that. But to that point, Stanley Johnson did not play well. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, he impressed me with the way he was able to move the ball. Him and Justice Winslow from Duke were the two players who really impressed me the most recent games of this past weekend. But yeah, I have Arizona winning this game. Please don't get upset. I don't need some more L's on my bracket. They need to get this game so they can keep on pushing on to the Elite Eight.
I would like to see Arizona lose. I think this is a potential upset situation for Xavier because I think they match up slightly well with the Wildcats, at least as well as you kind of can with a 2-8 matchup. I think. No, they're
2-6,
2-6. But at the end, I think Arizona, their talent just kind of pulls this one off. And I guess if I would have done a bracket, this would have been the matchup I had as well. Would have been Wisconsin and Arizona. I guess a little boring, 1 versus 2, but I think the tournament's pretty top heavy this year.
And I think you saw that a little bit. You have the little bit of upsets, but not too many. The last game for tonight, Kentucky versus West Virginia. The line is Kentucky favored by 13. I'm going to say Kentucky wins by single digits.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be pushed to the limit tonight. I think that pressure, that 40-minute pressure by West Virginia it's not going to go in Kentucky's favor. Yeah. That guarantee the freshmen had from West Virginia is going to be false. But you know what? If they do lose, I'll be laughing all weekend long because it will make me happy.
Well, West Virginia was kind of that hot team coming into the tournament, and I saw some stuff on ESPN that said the biggest threat to Kentucky going undefeated was West Virginia. A lot of the experts on ESPN said if Kentucky gets past West Virginia, then they'll pick them to go undefeated. But there were a couple people actually taking West Virginia to win this game and saying they're going to give Kentucky a lot of problems.
Well, I know West Virginia, you have an experienced coach in Bob Huggins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have some players who clearly are confident going into this game, making, a guarantee that they're going to win. I haven't seen West Virginia play this year, so it's hard for me to judge the matchup. Of course, like I said, I hope they win because I want Kentucky to lose. I don't care who they lose to. But the thing is, I don't like Kentucky's backcourt. I feel like that's their weakness with the two Harrison brothers starting. I feel like that's the way you can really beat them. That's why I actually had Maryland beating Kentucky. But Maryland didn't beat West Virginia because Maryland has a nice backcourt. But the thing to me is, I wonder how West Virginia play. I think if they use the formula that Cincinnati used last week, they can definitely test them. Because Cincinnati, even though Kentucky ended up beating them by 13, for most of that game, until maybe like the last 8 minutes, Cincinnati was right there with them the whole time. And really, if you rough Kentucky up, give them hard fouls and everything, they don't produce as well.
Yeah, I was going to say I watched that game, too, the Kentucky-Cincinnati game. If Cincinnati could have made a basket, they probably would have beat Kentucky. Yeah. That's why they lost. It wasn't because of anything Kentucky was doing. Exactly. It's just Cincinnati could not score, especially down the stretch.
They stopped scoring and they couldn't hit free throws.
And they got good looks. They just couldn't put the ball in the basket.
I think that's what I saw somebody on Twitter put goes like, if you didn't have to score points, Cincinnati would have won that ball game hands down. So that's why I think West Virginia's going to give them trouble.
Yeah, they had the perfect formula how to beat them. You just got to rough them up and play them tough.
Because they said it reminds them of Nolan Richardson's old Arkansas teams that they just pressed for 40 minutes and you were exhaling. I mean, I guess that's why Kentucky plays 10 players, but not in the tournament. And I knew when it came down to tournament time, they wouldn't be doing the white platoon and the blue platoon. They would be picking 7 to 8 players because you can't play 10.
Exactly.
Don't kid yourself. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So should we head on to Friday's game?
Oh, yeah, we could. I mean, it's all in this.
We got plenty of time tonight. First game tomorrow, UCLA versus Gonzaga. I'm just going to say Gonzaga. I'm sorry. UCLA, your run ends. You shouldn't have won after the first game.
Man, they shouldn't have won the first game.
No.
That was not a goaltend.
No. You're going to be seeing the rules committee meet, and that's going to be changed because there is no way all those camera views, there's no way that ball would have even hit the rim.
Yeah.
So they should have won the first one. The second game they played Georgia State or UAB.
No, they played UAB.
UAB. So, I mean, they should have won that one, but I have Gonzaga winning. I haven't won big. They've looked good this tournament.
Yeah.
Game's not even close. I haven't even watched them that much because the games have been blowouts.
Yeah, I turned them on for that Iowa game, and that was already a blowout. I only watched a couple minutes
20
of that.
points or almost, something like that.
Gonzaga, I guess, to go ahead and spoil some more of our later segment when we get our Final Four and championship predictions. I have Gonzaga in the Final Four. My brother was giving me a hard time about that one, talking about how they always choke in the tournament. They're so good because they play in a garbage conference. I think, the WAC is what Gonzaga plays in, and how they can never show up in the tournament. Well, I think this is Gonzaga's year. So I have them in the Final Four, and I think I agree with you, Ryan. I think they run over UCLA. I haven't seen really UCLA play that much. All I really saw was the goaltend against SMU in that first round game. And then I just see here they beat UAB, who I also saw. I watched that whole game against UAB and Iowa State where they were able to pull off that upset, and that was kind of impressive. So I think UCLA has the potential to give them some trouble just going off these past 2 games. But, yeah, I really like Gonzaga a lot this year, and I'm feeling pretty good that I picked them in the Final Four right now.
Yeah, Gonzaga, I had them getting to this game, but I didn't have them winning it because I actually had Iowa State beating them and seeing how Iowa State wants to lose the first freaking game. Then, so as far as my bracket, it doesn't really make a difference who wins, but I have Gonzaga winning. I didn't know Kevin Pangos was still in school, by the way. I feel like he's been playing since Ronnie Turioff was in Gonzaga. I've been hearing his name for years. I'm surprised he's still in school. Yeah, like I feel like ever since, because that's when I first heard of Gonzaga was like Adam Morrison, and I feel like I've been hearing Kevin Pangos' name ever since then.
Yeah,
I'm watching the game and I'm like Pangos, and I'm like, I had to look him up. Like, did he have a little brother? Like, I didn't know that's still the same dude. But so they definitely they're the team full of vets basically. If he's been in school for like 8 years, but I mean, so I got them winning this game, and then they're just gonna have to lose the next one because I don't have them in my Final Four. Okay.
All right, the next game we have is NC State versus Louisville. Say it right now, NC State needs to lose because they ruined my bracket.
Yeah,
I had Villanova winning the championship.
Oh yeah, you did. That's right.
I was going over experience, and they were a great team, but it's that NCAA tournament, and upsets happen. Yeah. So I have Louisville winning, and I don't want Louisville to go much further because I think they're a boring ball club to watch. They have
They're good.
hard time. They're good
Rick
defense.
Pitino is as good as it gets with
good defense, but they have hard time scoring. It's just kind of like Cincinnati had against Kentucky. Just hard time scoring, and I think they're boring.
Yeah, that whole east side of the bracket is horrible for me. Like basically the whole right side. The south is really bad, and the east is horrible. I did have Villanova losing the game that they lost, but I had LSU, being the people that beat them. And seeing how LSU lost basically on a last-second jump hook to NC State, it messed my whole thing up. But I have Louisville winning this game, and then I have them being out after that. But it doesn't matter, because who did I have in the Final Four out of that region? Virginia. And Virginia just lost, last week to Michigan State. So it's like, well, this just isn't working out the way I wanted it to work. But, I mean, as far as I can see, Louisville, Montrezl Harrell, speaking of people who've been in school forever, what's his name? He came out of high school when I did. I forgot the dude's name. He's from Chicago. It's not Boatwright. It's not Bohannon. The dude, Wayne Blackshear. That's what I'm talking about. Wayne Blackshear.
I was gonna say Boatwright's a senior.
Yeah. Boatwright's at UConn. Yeah.
He was from East Aurora.
Yeah.
I saw him play when they played West.
Wayne Blackshear graduated when I did. That means this is his 5th year in school.
Yeah.
And he was older as a high school senior. I think he was 20 at the time. Like his age was older than like everybody else. So he's an older dude. He should be in the league by now. He's not making the league, by the way. But I mean. They have players. I don't like Rick Pitino, though, so I don't really want to say too many good things. I like Montrezl Harrell. That's it. But I don't like Rick Pitino at all. And I really usually don't like Louisville players. So, yeah, they're going to win. But actually, you know what? They are going to win, but I hope NC State does win because they got Cat Barber, who's a quick little speedy guard. The shoes he wears are Damian Lillard shoes. That's God. One thing. Number 2, he's from Newport News, Virginia. That's where my main man, Allen Iverson, is from. So, hey.
Okay, oh my gosh, it's just full circle right now. It's the circle of life.
Exactly.
Okay? It's all come together.
It does. So hopefully, I mean, he's a very quick, speedy guard. When I watch him play, he's blowing by everybody. I wonder he needs to stay in school though, get the rest of his skills up. But he definitely has speed. So maybe they can take out Rick Pitino. I really don't like him at all. Like how you don't like Coach K, I can't stand Rick Pitino.
Well, I don't like Rick Pitino at all as a person. He seems like a pretty. I don't know the guy personally, so I don't know, but he seems like kind of a shady dude. I'm not a fan of him as a person, but when it comes to tournament time, his teams always play really well. So that's why I ended up picking the 4-seed Louisville in my Final Four. So I guess, hey, I'm doing well. Should I have actually filled out a bracket, I would have been doing. I feel pretty good at this point. I still have all 4 Final Four teams alive, and that's why I think Louisville's going to win tonight. They're not fun to watch, you're right, Ryan, at all. I watched I think 2 of their games this year. But they do have some talent on the team, and they are a grind-em-out team, and they know defense is their mantra. And if you're going to compare them to Cincinnati, I think they do. It's a fair comparison, but I think they have some more offensive potential than Cincinnati does. And I think they pick up the win tonight against NC State, which I saw the end of that Villanova game where they were able to upset Villanova in the last round. I was a little surprised about that one, but I mean, like I said, I really didn't watch any college basketball, but I could have told you this year that Villanova was overrated coming in as a 1 seed. I didn't like them at all, so I wasn't too surprised to see them lose to NC State, though I knew nothing about NC State coming into that game. And I think Louisville wins, I'm going to say, maybe by 10 points tonight over NC State.
It's tomorrow night, but yeah.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Next thing we have is Duke versus Utah. I think it's going to be a great game. And I'm going to have Duke winning because I have them in the Final Four. But I'm going to say I think it's going to come down to the last possession. I think Utah has a great defense. I mean, they went nose to nose with Arizona twice this year. Yeah. So, yeah, I have Duke winning by probably 2 points.
I have Duke winning because I have them making the national championship and losing to Arizona. Losing to Arizona. And I like the players. Like I said, I like how Justin Winslow plays. Jahlil Okafor had a great game for San Diego State last week. But, I mean, Utah has DeLon Wright, and he's basically the leader of that team, Darrell Wright's younger brother.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some people I have seen or heard call him the baby version of Dwayne Wade. He doesn't have the quick first step, but, I mean, he does like getting to the basket from what I've seen him play and finishing. And he doesn't really seem that he comes out looking to score automatically, which is good to set the rest of his teammates up because he does run point for them. So, I mean, that's definitely a good thing to have. But I gave them a compliment after I picked them to lose. So, that's good for them. So, they get to think about that part, but I hope they still lose.
Well, I'm going to go with Duke as well. I would have had them in the Elite Eight losing to Gonzaga had I done my bracket. I really don't know anything about Utah. I haven't seen any of their games throughout the tournament. And when it comes to Duke, I actually watch them a decent amount just because I watched them when they played Carolina twice and the highlights all over ESPN. I like Okafor a lot. I think he's going to be a solid player, especially at the NBA level. And I think just the talent of Duke as a squad, I know they have a ton of talent this year. I think that's what kind of carries them over the hump. But I really haven't heard too much about Utah, so I'm surprised to hear you guys kind of praise them.
It's that West Coast bias.
West Coast
I really don't know much, if anything, at all.
That's why Gonzaga, I mean,
yeah.
You don't hear much from them. Or Arizona. Arizona's a sleeper.
Yeah.
And they're a 2 seed, and they could have gotten a 1 seed easily. The last game we have is Oklahoma versus Michigan State. Go Sparty. Go Tom. Tom Izzo is Big Ten fan. Out of all the coaches I have seen come through the Big Ten, and this is including my Illini. I'm not going to count Lou Henson because I really wasn't around for Lou Henson's run. Remembering it, Tom Izzo is my favorite coach in Big Ten history.
Yeah.
His players play for him, and he gets on them. And even after a win, he'll still say, "We played horrible." And he's that blunt, honest coach, and I like that. So I have Michigan State winning. And I'm going to say this: Michigan State's going to go to the Final Four out of that bracket. Since my that bracket's already done. It's all crossed off and everything because it's just done. So I'm gonna say that Michigan State goes to the Final Four out of the East.
I agree with you. Like my whole thing is done on that side too. So Michigan State, I hope they do make it. I like Izzo, respect him. His players, he's perfect for March Madness because they had an up and down season.
Yeah.
But as soon as they're clicking once March Madness comes, he knows how to get in his players' minds, how they know how to play for him properly. I haven't really seen too much of Oklahoma, but I did have them winning this game. But they didn't really play anybody to this point that I really thought was going to beat them. That's really the reason why. But Michigan State, I'm more familiar with them. Like I said, much respect to Coach Izzo, so I have them winning that game.
Yeah, I know a lot, obviously, more about Michigan State than Oklahoma. Talking to my buddy Mark, who goes to Michigan State, he's completely surprised about this. Especially coming into the season, I was asking him when I was visiting him over the summer, how's the basketball team going to be? He's like, we're going to be terrible. We lost everybody to the NBA. And now they're making this run in the NCAA Tournament, which is a little surprising to see. I've watched, I think, 2 of their games. Really, the only one I watched in full this year is when they played in Michigan at East Lansing, which ended up being a pretty good game, and which I was still a little upset about, but that's okay. It doesn't matter at this point. I think I'll go Michigan State just because kind of like what you said, Darius. I know the team a lot better than Oklahoma. Oklahoma, another team I really don't know much about at all. Yeah, I didn't watch any of their games so far, whether it's Albany or Dayton. So I'll go Michigan State in a close one right now, really just because I don't know much about Oklahoma.
I do have to say props to Lon Cougar in Oklahoma. Lon Cougar, former Illinois coach. He's doing good in Oklahoma. I mean, he kind of went away and came back, and he has a good program down there.
Yeah.
He wasn't there when Blake was there, so...
That was, 2009, I think? Yeah, it was 2009.
Yeah, Blake, they had Cable. He's an assistant for Duke now.
Yeah, it's props for him. If Oklahoma wins, I'll be happy for him. But I like Michigan State's right now. They're doing probably the best out of all the tournament. I had them losing to Virginia because I just thought Virginia was just gonna stop their offense.
Yeah, same here. It just didn't work out that way.
So, all right, I guess since we went through our picks, let's decide who we have winning, who's going to be in the championship game. I guess Final Four championship games. Should we go off of what our brackets say, or can we do like a rewrite? Because I got to do a rewrite.
I don't have to.
I think we should do a rewrite.
I don't. You can if you want to. I don't have to.
I know you don't have to. I'm not going to do a big rewrite, but I have that East that is
same with me. Just the East.
Horrible with me.
That's fair. That's fair. What do you got, Ryan?
I'm going to say Michigan State out of the East. I have Duke out of the South. I'm going to stick with them.
Okay.
But I think Gonzaga could give them trouble. I'm going to say still have Kentucky in the national championship game just to keep my bracket alive. That was basically why I did that. And then I have Arizona coming out of the West. So, and my championship game it's going to be hard to say. I have Kentucky versus Duke.
That's a great matchup. I think that's what most people are kind of rooting for. Is that one?
Yeah, that's.
I'm just saying to watch a game of basketball, that might be the best possible championship game matchup in this tournament.
Yeah, because you got
just all the talent,
and you're going to see
Coach K,
scouts galore,
scouts
galore at that game.
And you got 3 big men who are projected to be in the top 8 draft picks this year.
I agree, Ryan. I hope that's not the matchup, but I think at the end of the day, the best basketball that would be the best matchup.
And if I had to pick can't do it. I'll have to pick Duke. I'm going to have to pick Duke to win it all. I cannot pick. I can't pick Kentucky to win.
I think at that point I'd rather see Kentucky win than Duke.
Nope.
Really? Nope. I can't stand Duke. I cannot stand them.
Nope. I can't stand cannot stand the ugly.
I don't like either of them.
I can't stand the ugly Harrison twins.
Yeah.
They're so ugly. They should have not made a second. I'm sorry. I mean, they are so. I'm sorry. They're so ugly.
I agree 100%. I feel like that's one of the greatest sound bites that we've had in C4 Sports history. I think that's a highlight. I really enjoy that. But, I'm going to go Michigan State, Duke, Arizona, and Notre Dame because I'm not even going to let Kentucky get to my national championship. That may sound wrong, but I figure at some point they got to lose, and I'm just going to wish upon a star.
Well, I'm going to go with my initial pick that I made the day the tournament started because I woke up at noon like I did every day over spring break, and I tried to fill out a bracket because I was like, oh, snap, the tournament is starting today, and then it was too late. So all I did was pick a Final Four and a championship game. And my Final Four that I picked that day when I woke up at noon was Kentucky, Wisconsin, Louisville, and Gonzaga. I'm going to stick with that. And then I got Wisconsin over Louisville in the championship game because Frank is a tank, and I do not like Kentucky. So
have you seen his interview with Will Ferrell? I have not seen it.
No, I haven't either. I heard about it because he was Frank the Tank in Old School.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it, but
that's awesome. I really want to see. You make me really want to see that now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that now. But did you also see? I can't think of his name, but he was on the podium for interviewing. And he talked about one of the reporters goes like, man, she's real cute. Yep. And all the room heard it. He goes like, you're still on mic, and he just covers his hands. I think it's
some guy from Wisconsin.
Humphrey.
I don't know his name, but I mean, look here, dude. This is when we're gonna give our love doctor advice. Let me turn to the camera. Love doctor advice. Yeah, for y'all that's listening, we do have a camera in studio now, so y'all can stream on the 88.3 website. Station plug. Okay.
There you go.
Young man. Okay.
I don't break out in YMCA real quick.
No, I'm gonna break down how this is supposed to go for him. He said that the reporter was real beautiful. Now I don't know why he thought the mic was off when he just answered the question and the mic was on. But even if you for some reason thought they didn't hear you, don't cover your face afterwards. You just use that to your advantage. And be like, oh, so did y'all hear that when they say yeah? Then you just look right at her. Did you enjoy that? I mean, you in a tournament. It's your chance.
Because he's usually a guy that uses big words and all that stuff, and it just drives the stenographers crazy because they're trying to type it all up, and they have to put it on pause and think of what that word is after the interview.
Exactly.
So I heard that's why, because he added these big words out of random, and then just looked at one of the reporters and said it. Yeah, I think that was probably pretty funny, but I'm gonna have to watch that. Will Ferrell.
I love Will Ferrell.
You gotta shoot your shot when you have your chance. Spike Albright not last year, 2 years ago when Michigan was in the championship game. Remember Trey Burke got in foul trouble and Spike Albright hit all them threes. Yep. And after the game, he sent a tweet out to Kate Upton talking about let's go out on a date. He was the world's most famous athlete during that day. Okay, you gotta use your shot. You were in the NCAA tournament. That is going worldwide through the internet. That you done called the reporter cute. Now you just follow up on it. Unless, of course, it's Jamie Maggio, because that's mine. You can't have that. Yeah, that's separate.
Really? Okay, that's Darius's territory?
Yeah, that's mine right there. Yeah. Everybody else, that's cool. Jamie Maggio, that's right. That's it.
All right. If I ever run into her.
Because, sorry, I have bro code. Can't talk to you.
Can't even look at her. Because of the hawk.
You talk to her with your back turned. That's
all right, okay. All right, good to know. Wow, I don't even know what to say. Is that what you guys got? I guess tried to go off that. Who would be? I don't know. One more topic before we go to break. Who's your player of the tournament so far?
You
even got one.
I would have to go Trice with Michigan State.
Shoot.
If Trice wasn't shooting the ball and being a point guard like he should be, I don't think Michigan. Wait, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to go with the backcourt of Wichita State. I'm going to go Baker, Van Vliet.
Yeah, I was going to choose
because Van Vliet was, if it wasn't them for that first game, they would have never went past Indiana. And then Baker stepped up from horrible Missouri Valley Conference, a horrible first round, and then finally came alive in that second round when they needed him against Kansas. So I'm going to say the backcourt of Wichita State is my co-MVP so far.
That's tough because it's only been 2 games so far, and then I feel like if I pick a player, that his team still has to be alive. But forget that. D'Angelo Russell. I don't care. Okay? Right. He played against my homie Shaka Smart. Y'all know I love Shaka Smart. That's my homie. I
remember that from last year.
Exactly. That's my homie. And I picked against him in the first game because they played Ohio State, and it worked out for me because Ohio State beat him. D'Angelo Russell went off against one of the best defenses in the country.
Okay.
So I got to go with D'Angelo Russell.
All right, fair enough. That's all the tournament. I said Fred. Yeah, Fred VanVleet. That's also a little biased. He's my favorite player too. So I guess that works. But I guess that's all the tournament talk we have here on C4 Sports. But that's far from all the basketball talk. Because on the other side of this break, we're going to be talking some professional basketball, and we're not talking about Europe or anything like that. We're talking about the National Basketball Association, just in case you were confused. So basketball talk, we still got hockey to get to, maybe even some soccer, possibly to end this show on, because we are only about a half hour into it. It's C4 Sports right here on 88.3 The Dog. Welcome back to C4 Sports right here on 88.3 The Dog, live from Studio 326 in Salee Hall. It's Matt, Darius, and Ryan. No Adam. We'll see if he shows up later for some Western Illinois baseball talk. So we're going to go ahead and move on to professional basketball, the National Basketball Association. And I think our first talking point is going to be the ever-interesting MVP race. Who do you guys got right now as the National Basketball Association MVP? Because it's, Steph Curry, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Who do you got?
I got to go with James Harden. I remember last time we were on here, we talked about how great Russell's doing. I think he was in the middle of his triple-double streak or something like that. And I definitely am a fan of Russ more than any other wrestler. I don't really call myself a fan of the other two, but just from the playoff position they're going to end up with, which at best still looks like it's going to be 8th, I feel like that's too low. Steph Curry, yeah, they're running away with it. They've already won their division. They're running away with the 1 seed. I don't feel like Memphis is going to catch them. But I just think team-wise, he has a lot of great players around him, which is not his own fault. I mean, he's definitely having an MVP caliber type season. But James Harden, they don't really have another scorer around him. I remember, I don't know if it's still the case right now, but Corey Brewer at one point was their second leading scorer for a while after Corey Brewer had got there, because we know Dwight is hurt. Dwight is just starting to come back right now. Yeah, I think the team might suffer a little bit from that. I don't know if that's real analysis or me just liking Dwight Howard. But I think James Harden, the thing about Westbrook is that Westbrook he's been in and out with injuries early in the year. Harden has been doing this the whole season. He's taken over since the season started. I didn't have Houston being this high in the playoff standings. They're 3rd right now. I don't know. I feel like it has to be Harden. He's taking over the league, and every game it seems like he's dropping 30+. Yeah. So I just had to go with Harden for MVP.
I'm going to have to go with Steph Curry. This ain't my sport, my cup of tea when it comes to the sporting world. NBA's down there for me. But I'm going to say Steph Curry. I haven't seen much of Harden, and I think that's what's going to hurt him. Because when you turn on any sports thing, I see more of them talking about Steph Curry and the Cleveland Cavaliers with James than I do with Harden and Houston. And you know what? Harden could be having better stats. I'm not quite for sure what they are at right now. But I think it's just the media, I think, will have it with Steph Curry. I mean, and they're a number 1 seed, and I mean it's more of a team effort. So I think it's because of the team doing so great that they're going to give it to one person. It's going to be Steph Curry, and you know what? Harden might deserve it more, but I'm just going to go with Steph. I mean, it's the shots he can make and the passing now, and I didn't realize that until I talked last time. That I'm like, hey, what else does Steph Curry really do? Because I was on the Westbrook bandwagon for a little bit, and then until I guess he heard me or he heard somebody, and his passing, I've never seen that passing before, so good for him. I got Curry.
I'm going to stick with Russell Westbrook. I kind of agree with you guys. I don't think he'll win the official one just because, like you guys said, the team is struggling or whatever, and normally you don't see guys like that win it. I think if we're going to go that route, I kind of like the analysis you had, Ryan. I think Steph Curry might end up winning the official one, if only just because of how great a season Golden State has had, and he's been really the catalyst for it. But if we're talking about at least my definition of the MVP, I give it out every year, the Matt Langman MVP to all the sports leagues that I follow. And for my MVP, it goes by, everybody kind of has a little bit of a different interpretation of MVP. Is it who's most valuable to their team or whatever? For me, I'd say you're most valuable to your team if you're the best player. I think at the end of the day, the best player in the league for that year should win the award, no matter what definition you have. And for me, watching this year, it's been Russell Westbrook. And you just look at his numbers, 27 points per game. We got almost 9 assists per game to go with 7 rebounds. That's his average for the regular season. That's incredible. Those are insane numbers that really, I think we've only seen maybe even LeBron James put up over the past 20 years, 15 years, if you want to go back like that. So I think there's really, I don't want to say no contest because Harden and Curry, as well as I think LeBron is still, he's not going to win it, but he's still in that 4th place, 5th place position. Even those guys, I think it's been Russell Westbrook who's been the best player on the team, especially when you take Kevin Durant away. And I think if coming into the season, if you would have even said that Durant will be missing the vast majority of the games because he's had, 2 injuries this year, right? 2 big injuries? He was back for a little, because he started the season hurt, came back, then he get hurt again.
Yeah, he got hurt with the, I believe it was his ankle. Because he started, you're talking about Durant, right?
Kevin Durant,
yeah. So he had the foot that was broken, and then his ankle got sprained, and he came back. And then it's still been the same problem with the foot the whole time. They were talking about the screw was bad in his foot.
Yeah, he had a setback, and he's probably not even going to play again.
Yeah, and then they keep pushing it back, and I doubt now he comes back for the season period.
I think if they make the playoffs, the Thunder make it, then Westbrook, for me, no contest, he's the MVP because he's the sole reason they would even make the playoffs in a very competitive Western Conference. So that's incredibly impressive. So I really don't – there's no competition for the Matt Langman MVP, and that's – far and away Russell Westbrook this season, if only for the string of triple-doubles he put together. That's pretty incredible. That's a one-man show. That's, I think, just you're the team right there. You put the team on your back. Being a LeBron James fan, I felt like that's what LeBron has always done for his teams, being that kind of all-around player. And this year I'm a fan of that kind of all-around basketball, that team basketball, and Westbrook has been playing that this year, putting the team on his back like I really haven't seen before. I think second place for me probably would be Steph Curry at 23 points per game, about 8 assists, which is very impressive, and only 4 rebounds, but he is Steph Curry, the point guard. It's just his shooting display is pretty incredible. It's a lot of fun to watch. I bring it back to, I only want to say Ray Allen. I prefer Reggie Miller to Ray Allen if you're talking about shooting the ball. And Stephen Curry, just he reminds me a lot of Reggie. Not necessarily in the way he shoots or how he shoots, it's just like the fear he puts into you as a three-point shooter. Because even great three-point shooters, they'll only shoot maybe 40% is a great three-point shooting percentage. I just feel like Steph Curry, the shots he hits, and the degree of difficulty on his three-point shooting, he's got that perfect technique on his jump shot, and he's just, for such a little guy in a big man sport, just the fear he can put into opponents this year has been very impressive, and honestly a lot of fun to watch. I've really only watched consistently LeBron James, so the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Bulls. Really not so much even the Bulls since Rose got hurt. The team after that I would have to say who I've watched the most has been the Golden State Warriors, because it's just so much fun to watch Steph Curry play.
Absolutely, and he just went off the other night against Damian Lillard, which, I mean, of course, is not the thing I want to say, too out loud. But, I mean, it is what it is. Portland's been struggling because they have a lot of injuries. But, yeah, Steph Curry is definitely playing ball. But the thing I thought about right before break, and it's interesting, is that the 3 primary players we're talking about for MVP are all guards. Mm-hmm. And there's no way that all 3 of them can make first team all NBA this year. And I think it's going to be interesting to see which one of them that they leave out.
Well, you can make the case that it's going to be Curry or Westbrook that gets left out because they're both technically point guards. At least that's the position they both play. Or Harden plays normally the 2.
But see, that's the thing. They don't do it by a specific position. Okay. It's just 2 guards and 3 forwards.
Okay.
And they use their forwards as one of the centers. It's kind of like the All-Star vote. And I think that, of course, whoever you put as MVP, they're going to have to get in.
Yeah.
And then who is that they leave off. And it's crazy. I feel like it's going to be Westbrook that's left off just because, like I said, the way that it's going is that his has not been for the whole year. What he's doing is historical and everything, but I think it's basically been since February 1st. And if you take that part away, it's like, okay, what's happening with the rest of the season? It kind of reminds me of when Tyreek Evans won Rookie of the Year. And Brandon Jennings, I believe, had a good first half of the year. That's when he had
like
the
55.
55. And everybody's like, oh, Brandon Jennings. And then like he just couldn't sustain it the whole year. I think the problem with Westbrook is the beginning of the year, he struggled with injury. He's still putting up numbers, but the injuries, I guess, and then their record. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. But all three, it's like I said, like we've been saying, it's been a great season because none of them were probably up there for MVP conversation.
I think they had Harden was ranked to finish like 4th, I think, in the NBA.com's preseason MVP voting.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, it's nice to see different players, taking away the award instead of like the same cast of guys. Even though LeBron's name is still going to be mentioned as it should be, but it's just nice to see somebody, else different up there.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got for that too. I mean, you wrapped it up perfectly there, Darius. It kind of, you almost said though, you almost got the perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you about next, which would be your Portland Trailblazers, specifically Damian Lillard. I know they had a good start to the season, but I really haven't seen much of them at all this season, and I think that's kind of a bad thing, don't you think? Haven't heard their name pop up too much since really winter break.
Yeah, I think it works to their advantage a little bit because I feel like it happens a lot, in the West. Like we talked about earlier, the East Coast bias. Like the New York Knicks have probably got more TV time this year than the Memphis Grizzlies have.
Yeah,
and the Grizzlies are what? They're the second seed in the West, 8.5 games out of the number 1 spot, so they were not going to get that spot. But still, it's a lot of West Coast bias. But the thing with Portland is that it really started. They started declining when Wes Matthews tore his Achilles. And I believe before that, at that point of the season, I believe they were 2 games out of being the second seed.
Okay.
And right now, if we look at it today, they're 4 games out.
Well, they're the 4th seed.
Yeah, they're the 4th seed, and they're 4 games out of the second seed. They're 8.5 back behind Memphis. So, I mean, Wes Matthews tore his Achilles, and then it was like, okay, good, they got a Flalo, who I am a fan of.
Yeah, because they made that trade,
right?
Yeah,
which was great for him being on the bench because, they don't have any bench players, and now, once again, they don't. And then Nick Batum has been hurt within the last few games. LaMarcus Aldridge was hurt. He just came back last night, and they were able to beat Utah. So they're on a 1-game winning streak, but yeah, they've really been struggling. And this is not the time. This is probably the worst time to be struggling because San Antonio has picked it up. I know they lost to Dallas, I believe, 2 nights ago. But they basically, overall, they've been picking it up, especially, within the month of March. The Clippers, I see they've won 5 in a row. I haven't really been keeping track of what they've been doing. Dallas has struggled a little bit, even though they just beat San Antonio. But for Portland, I feel like you don't want to fall too low. Now, if you get in the 3 seed, you're going to play San Antonio again, which matchup-wise, I really don't want to see. Because we remember last year, San Antonio killed them the whole series. As of right now, you play the Clippers. I mean, that's tough to even play. I mean, because really, Portland is playing with 5 players if their starters are healthy. Because, of course, Matthews won't be back, and you have nobody coming off the bench. No really experience. Your biggest energy guy was Thomas Robinson. He was in that Flalo deal, so he's not there anymore. C.J. McCollum is young. This is only his second year. He didn't get a lot of minutes last year. So they don't really have a bench that you can really rely on. So I think really they might be first rounding out this year, which is I definitely wouldn't want to see, seeing how, Damian Lillard is my favorite player. So just as a result of that, I support what Portland does. But it's probably going to be a tough finish for them. And I hope they don't do anything drastic like fire Terry Stotts or anything like that, fire a coach because they haven't been producing. But they really need to get some bench players. I know that's
on the management, not
yeah,
them, right?
exactly right. I know that's probably easier said than done, but they have to really fix that problem. And shoot, Wes Matthews is a free agent after this year too, so they got a lot of things coming up. But yeah, they've been struggling, but at the same time they've been struggling. I would say to everybody, watch out for the Spurs. Yeah. The Spurs are clicking at the perfect time right now, and man, I don't know. I feel like they could.
That? Who said that?
I take you said it. Yeah, you put answer, so
I did say that because last time we were in here before spring break, we were all saying who's going to win what, or I forced you guys to make predictions, and I'm sticking with that. At the time, they were like the 7 or the 8 seed. The Spurs were
7,
and I'm sticking with it. Sorry to cut you off, but pulling a little Darius move where you always pull up when you're right.
Hey, do it. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to promote yourself. There's no better promotion than self-promotion. But I mean, they're only 3 games out of the 3rd seed, and I feel like it's not far-fetched to think that they could catch it. They could rise all the way up to 3, and if they do that, then it's going to be interesting. That's really just to say the least.
I haven't watched too much of Portland this year to go off of that point to really comment about them. I'm just going to say I haven't heard much about Lillard or even LaMarcus. I kind of forgot that he was hurt for a while there.
Yeah.
So he's been out for a while, which is a valid point. But just to go to San Antonio, I said coming in I'm going to be generic and boring and I guess lame, but I think the third year in a row it's LeBron James versus the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals because I'm still sticking with San Antonio to come out of the West. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now just because it's Tim Duncan, Kawhi Leonard, who has had an up and down year. I think he was hurt for a while. He's missed a lot of games this year. But if he's healthy in the playoffs, watch out for him. He's a matchup nightmare. Tony Parker's still one of the most underrated players in the NBA. Same with Manu Ginobili as well. I think he's kind of lost a step, but he's still a solid player coming off the bench. And I like what I've seen from the Spurs. I've seen a couple of their games. Really, the only one I watched in depth was that great game they had against Cleveland where Kyrie went off for 55. It was Kyrie and LeBron really versus the Spurs. I think they had almost every point in like the fourth quarter and overtime. LeBron had like 36 and Kyrie had 55. And I know they made every single big bucket, whether it was Kyrie for 3 or LeBron had some big shots, especially in overtime. That was just a ton of fun to watch. I really enjoyed watching that game a lot. So that was the only game. The Spurs should have won that game.
Oh, yeah, they should have.
Some crazy shots from Kyrie pulled that out for Cleveland. And, yeah, he was 7 for 7 on threes that game. And, yeah, that was just a lot of fun to watch, especially, I guess, being a LeBron / Cleveland fan, if you want to even call it that. But, yeah, I like what I've seen from the Spurs, and I think it is the, third year in a row now we see LeBron versus the Spurs in the finals. I really think that's what's going to happen.
But speaking of the Cavs, I'm happy you brought that up. You being a LeBron fan, and obviously you want to see him win. Yeah. How do you feel with the whole reports of him being frustrated with Kevin Love because Kevin Love isn't really buying into the full system?
I kind of can understand where he's coming from. I don't know what the case is, not in that locker room or playing with the team, and I haven't watched enough of the Cavaliers consistently to really give a, I don't want to say educated opinion, but like an opinion that I would stand behind. But from just going off the top of my head and what I have seen this year and just knowing LeBron, following him his entire career, him being my favorite player his entire career, he's just all about winning. That's what he cares about. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
So that's what you saw in Miami. What worked well is when everybody kind of bought into that system. It really took Dwayne Wade to realize, like, oh, this is LeBron's team. I'm going to defer to him or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you kind of need is you need guys to buy into the system. We've seen Kyrie make a sacrifice, too. He's not really the primary ball handler anymore on that team. It is LeBron James playing that point forward position. And I don't know. You just got to have guys who have to come in and accept their roles. That was hard for Chris Bosh. We saw that first year. Bosh had probably the toughest time out of all of them. And he kind of deserves almost the most praise out of that Miami Big Three for the way he accepted that almost third role.
Yeah, and he warned Love during the offseason. Yep. He warned him that it was going to be tough.
Yep. And that's what Kevin Love, I think, has to do. It has to be if you care about winning. Because that's what he says he wants. He says he wants that championship. You just got to prove you got to do anything you can to win. And I think that's on Kevin Love right now to do that. Because that team, I follow them all on the social media and stuff. I have been a big J.R. Smith fan, if only because he's fun to play with in 2K, and I think the guy's funny. But he's gelled perfectly. I thought that was a terrible move to get Shumpert and JR. And now J.R. Smith is killing it because he's fit right into that system. And he's fully bought into, I guess, if you want to call it the LeBron James message, if you want to call it that. I still don't think the defense is where it should be. And I think that falls back to Kevin Love and his interior defense right there as well. But I don't know. I haven't seen enough.
But do you blame him when he doesn't get the minutes that he should be getting? He's not playing in the fourth quarter.
Fourth quarters. He's not. They're playing James Jones over.
They were. I forget who they were talking to.
Well, if you're playing James Jones, I would be a little upset about playing James Jones.
I think that was. Good thing you brought it. That's what the guy said. Because James Jones. I think Wilbon said James Jones is playing in the fourth quarter. How does that happen?
Which definitely seems like a LeBron call.
That's why I think LeBron is the head coach.
Oh yeah, he
probably when you have David Blatt as the Cavaliers head coach.
You know what? I could see him and. I think it was Tony that said it goes and the general manager.
Yeah.
He's in control, and you know what? If I was Kevin Love, I'd get out.
I was just about to say
see ya, I'm going to go bye-bye. He goes you know what? You might be a good person, but you know what? One person should not control this team. Because guess what? You left this city. You left this team and said, bye-bye. I want championships, and I'll come back when my career is when I've got my 2 championships or however he wanted, and come back and maybe raise up his character. I'm sorry, but Kevin Love would. You know what, Kevin Love, you'll become my favorite player if you leave. If you stay, then you're just going to be. You're going to have the same thing. You're going to have LeBron saying I want this player in the fourth, or I want this player playing over him, and
It's worked.
A player
Maybe
should
Kevin
never
Love played defense or got more rebounds, he would be playing.
Well, I definitely agree with you on the part that if I was Kevin Love, I would leave this offseason. But the thing is I think it's both of their faults. It's LeBron and Kevin Love. Kevin Love plays a part in it Of course, he's not buying into the system, but I don't know what he thought was going to happen when, first of all, you asked to leave Minnesota. Okay, so, okay, we understand that. I mean, why would you want to play there? They suck. They were rebuilding. You feel like you're a great player. But when you're joining a team with LeBron, who's basically, he's won, the last 4 out of 5 MVPs.
Yeah.
And Kyrie Irving, who clearly just, even that previous summer, showed that he's basically the best up-and-coming point guard. Yep. He killed Damian Lillard, as much as I hate to say that, in the USA scrimmage. Derrick Rose has been hurt. I mean, you have John Wall and you have Steph Curry, but Kyrie, as far as in the East, is basically the best point guard there is. So and he likes
he's a ball dominant.
Right, he's a ball dominant that likes to score. So I don't really know what he thought was going to happen. Now I understand why he would want to play fourth quarter minutes, but one thing he has to understand, as you mentioned, he doesn't have defense.
Yeah.
So that's on him. Now as far as LeBron, I think that and of course these are just rumors. So I mean, but I feel like they have some truth to them. LeBron, I think, has to understand. Well, I think he understands it, but Kevin Love is used to putting up like 25 and 12.
Yeah.
When he's not getting the amount of touches, of course Kevin Love's going to be upset. And now I'm not saying LeBron should give up his touches, but it's not like, you just automatically just become a role player like that.
Yeah.
Kevin Love in his mind and his skill set is still a star. So I think LeBron hasn't realized, like, this is not the end of his career. This is not like Kevin Garnett in Boston when he's towards the end. He's just going to sacrifice. Kevin Love is still young, which is why I think he's going to walk because he's not happy. They're winning, but I don't think winning replaces everything. I feel like he's, still being young. He should probably look to go somewhere where they can be a playoff team, but he can still at least be a second option. Mm-hmm. I remember saying before the season, either he or Kyrie was going to have to become the third option and be comfortable with it. Obviously, Kyrie did not step back. He said, look, I'm going to be here. In some games, like the San Antonio game, he shows he can be the number one option. Yeah. The other game, when he had 50-something against Portland when LeBron was out, he showed he can still be the number one guy. Kevin Love hasn't showed that. Kevin Love has regressed to the third option. And, I mean, as far as this year, he's going to have to accept that. They've been playing great basketball. Like you said, they got J.R. Smith and they got Shump. They got Timothy Mozgov. They've been winning.
Well, I think he won't be coming back for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think
that's my only problem with that. I think Kevin Love, I agree. Like, I understand completely where he's coming from. But if you want to win, you knew the situation you were walking into. And the only thing I would be upset about if I was Love is the fourth quarter minutes, especially say you're coming back, you need to come back, you need his offense, and you have James Jones playing up here. I think it'd be different if it was Varejao and Mozgov and Love. Instead, it's James Jones. That's the only thing I think I would really be upset with if I'm Kevin Love.
Yeah.
And is he even getting? Is he even getting the shots and the looks?
Not as much as he's used to.
Not as much.
But
he was also the first option in
Minnesota. Is he getting even the chance when it does come to him?
He's pretty much become either kind of a second chance scorer, getting offensive rebounds, or really a perimeter spot up shooter where he's the stretch four, and you'll have LeBron or Kyrie drive and kick it out to him, and he's a catch and shoot type player.
And that's been my problem with him even before he came to Cleveland.
Exactly.
He loves shooting the three ball way too, and I can't stand big men to do that. Dirk is the only one I'm like, fine, you can do that, because it's almost like he brought that to the league and they changed. But everybody's been trying to do that since then. I couldn't stand when Chris Bosh did it.
Yeah.
I've been talking to one of my roommates. Shout out one of my roommates. I have one roommate. Shout out Jamal. We were talking about Rasheed Wallace, and I was talking about Rasheed would have been better if he stayed in the post. He loves shooting too much. Big men love shooting for some reason. Yeah. Josh Smith, guys who are productive in the post, but they love shooting. Now Kevin Love can shoot. There's no doubt about it. But when you're in a limited offense and you're getting limited roles, they have other shooters. They have Mike Miller. They have James Jones. They have J.R. Smith. Be a big man and go down there and get some rebounds. That's why, like Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson fits perfectly in that system. Gets rebounds, plays defense, and that's really all that they need him to do. Kevin Love can do that, and he can add some post scoring, but he likes spotting up at the 3-point line all the time. So I feel like he and the system don't fit together. So that's why I feel like it's going to be a separation at the end of the year.
If some stupid reason he comes back, he's going to have a horrible. He's going to have a horrible life. Is that what you're going to say?
You said it, not me.
No, is he going to? He's going to regret.
He has to change his game.
But if he doesn't want to,
well, he should have come back. Then he was dumb in the first place.
Well, yeah, right. Then he's dumb for coming back.
I kind of like what you said. What did you expect it was going to be?
Yeah, I don't know what he really thought was going to take place.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
especially if all you want to do is shoot 3-pointers. I mean, their whole team already is 3-point shooters. Just get to the. It's kind of like what I say at the rec. What do we say to Ken? Ken, stop shooting threes. You're tall. You're 6'5". Go to the basket.
And just like well, I don't know if Kevin Love listens, but Ken doesn't. But that's besides the point. But yeah, He doesn't. Kevin Love doesn't like doing anything but shooting
understand why he's upset coming where he was the top option in Minnesota, but you want to win championships. That's why you left Minnesota. You have to make sacrifices to win championships.
And it's been proven as the number one option, he couldn't even make the playoffs. So he had to change something. So being a third option might be too low. You might want to be number 2, but you're gonna have to leave for that because it's not gonna happen in Cleveland. Clearly, they already have their hierarchy. LeBron is 1, as it should be, and Kyrie is 2, as it's shown that it should be. So if he doesn't like it, then he's going to have to leave at the end of the year.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I, once again, understand why he's feeling that way, especially with the pride. You have to have pride if you're in the NBA, especially at that level. But we saw Wade and Bosh. They took the hit, and they were very successful, won 2 championships, 4 straight conference titles. Obviously, I'm biased because I love LeBron. But the guy's a winner. That's probably my favorite thing about him. So he doesn't care about the money too much. He doesn't care about all that. He wants to win, and he knows how to win. It's been proven he knows how to win. So I would trust LeBron.
Yeah. And that's why you haven't seen Kevin Love sign.
Yeah.
And I think because they were saying right when he did the trade, he's going to sign an extension before even the season started. Yeah. And I thought so too, maybe in the first couple months. But then I think he realized how life was going to be, and I'm not. I guess I'm sorry that I'm saying that his life's going to be horrible, but I guess his playing career is going to take a huge hit.
And what his legacy could be.
His legacy could be. Yeah. That's why I think he'll go back
if
to
he wants
his
to win
UCLA
or
roots.
put up personal numbers. I think that's what he's got to decide.
Yeah.
I think he has a much, much, much better chance to win if he would just buy into, I guess, a role player, if you want to say that, with Cleveland, or if he wants to put up the numbers as a 1 or 2 option, but I don't see him winning.
And
I mean, it depends on where he goes.
Yeah. I think he's better as a 2 option. That's why I think LA Lakers are going to throw money at him.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't doubt
that. I mean, he might. It might be rough out there for a year or so.
Yeah,
but I think they'll get more players in there.
Yeah,
and all that, and it'll be better, and he'll be able.
I think regardless, he needs to change his game. Like you said, as a number 1 option in Minnesota, they didn't even make the playoffs. He needs to get rebounds. I guess he needs to get tough. I mean, I like Kevin Love. Obviously, he's kind of the captain of my team.
He doesn't look
but it's even Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh had the same problem when he was in Toronto. He was the same thing: jump shooter, perimeter post player.
But see, this is the thing. In Toronto, he at least did some stuff in the post. Kevin Love does not post up. He prefers to shoot.
He doesn't look like a post player. I don't see like
he has to learn.
I don't see.
Even saw it with LeBron. LeBron won the championship.
Broad shoulders.
Exactly.
I don't see the broad shoulders. I don't see the muscular forearm and to go in and he just looks.
And especially if he comes back, he has to get in the gym and work.
And he has to play defense too. That's kind of the most underrated portion of the NBA, especially when you start talking playoff basketball, is defense. And that's my one little worry about Cleveland. I still don't think the defense is where it should be. And Kevin Love, I don't think he... obviously, the post is the obvious thing. He doesn't like to go in the post, even though he's a 4 or 5. And his defense is not good at all. He's not a good defensive player.
And I think that's why he's a 4. He goes outside.
Yeah.
I think that's where...
And I think that's why
he doesn't do very well on defense, is because you're not down low.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think that's why you see him sit too in the fourth quarter, is especially if they're winning... They're not going to play Kevin Love if he's going to be giving up baskets, especially against, say, an elite player. You're going to play, say, Mozgov in his position, who is a much better defender than he is, or Varejao when he was healthy. So that's why you can see the fourth quarter minutes going down for Kevin Love. But I wouldn't necessarily blame the guy if he left.
I think the media is doing too much into it, talking about, they're asking how close are you and LeBron as friends. First of all...
It's just because of all these comments he's
but I mean, it's not third grade, all right? You don't have to be friends just because you're on the same team. As long as y'all win and everything, that's really all that matters. And I think it's also a tough sacrifice for what you said, does he choose winning or numbers? I think, personally, if it was me, I probably would choose numbers until the end of my career. Like, if I feel like I'm a great player, then I would want to be in a place where I feel like I can produce. And then be like, oh, well, I missed out on the rings. Like, if you ask Robert Horry said that he'd rather have the career of Charles Barkley than have the 7 titles that he has. I remember LaDainian Tomlinson said that he'd rather have the great running back, who'll eventually be a Hall of Famer career that he had, than, being some secondary or just some regular guy who has Super Bowl rings. I think any great player would rather have the career that they had as far as putting up great numbers and being a Hall of Famer than just being a champion. And so it's tough from going to a number 1 option to being a guy who is becoming a third, if sometimes maybe even lower than that. Because when J.R. Smith is on there, you become a 4th option.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he definitely has to change his game if he was going to come back. And if he leaves, he has to understand that wherever he goes, they're probably not going to be any good. And then he's just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you made that point about rings or numbers. Because all the records is talk about numbers. It's not when they talk about rings. It's usually teams.
Yeah,
because like they've won 13 NBA championships. I mean, Jordan, they still talk about the 6 rings, but that's as far as you go. But after that, it's the numbers. Like Pete Rose's, I'm going out of sport. Pete Rose's hits.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to get to that. Or I guess if it's basketball, I guess it's Wilt's numbers. Nobody's going to get to Wilt's score.
The 50.
It's Wilt's all-time
score.
No,
that's Kareem.
Kareem. Oh, Kareem. I thought you were talking about most points in a game.
Well, most points in a game, too. But those are the things that live with you is if you can get those numbers and all that stuff. So I think that's why I'll go with numbers. I would like to. Numbers are...
Yeah.
Shoot, my favorite player is really all numbers. So, I mean, that's why I can't really argue.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like advanced stats, but that's a whole different conversation. I'm not going to go into that. But, yeah, it's interesting to see how they ended up. Since they're winning and since they're so close to the end of the year, I don't think that it would be too much of a problem. But if they start losing in a playoff series, I expect ESPN to be all over their back.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can understand that.
Probably be all over the back of the coach, too, if they...
Well, they were on him early.
They sure were.
So when they were struggling.
Yeah, they were all upon him.
I guess our final little touch-up for the NBA before we get to final thoughts is, what do you guys think heading into the playoffs? It's almost playoff time.
Yeah.
Who do you like, who don't you like right now, looking at the standings?
Well, the East, I feel like it's... first of all, I don't like Washington. And as we keep saying, I'm so disappointed in them. They started off so hot, and then they're on a 4-game losing streak right now. Cleveland obviously looks... I want to see how Atlanta acts. I don't know really still what to expect from them. Cleveland, we know that they have star players. Chicago, they're going to be tough even without Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
I want to see how he plays when he comes back. I feel like it's going to be a struggle, but just to see him in a playoff game is going to be nice. As far as the West, y'all know I'm still with Memphis. Memphis, I feel like they're just so deep in it. When the game slows down, I think it's great for them. And I'm not going to talk about Portland just because they're struggling, and I don't want to see them lose in the first round.
Yeah.
I'm going with... I just want a new champion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that's going to break your heart with the Spurs versus Cleveland. I just want to see a new champion.
It won't break us out if Cleveland wins it.
Yeah.
They'll be perfectly fine.
Well, no. I mean, LeBron has won. I mean, the other players have not, so I guess okay with that. I want to see new champions. I want to see, like, a Memphis. Or I want to see... Golden State would probably save your career if the Clippers showed up and won the championship.
Man, I wish they would do some crap like that, and I mean that in all honest sarcasm. All the freaking after I picked them. Well, hold on, I did pick them this year, didn't I? Yeah. Well, forget it. I'm done.
Blake Griffin.
You did pick.
Why we bringing up old stuff? Why are we doing that? I don't feel.
Hey,
Adam. Adam's here. Hey, Adam's here. Hey, there we go. There we go. I don't know why we have to talk about me. Let's not be selfish. We don't have to do that. It's okay.
I'm not even going to comment on that. All right, Adam. The question is, Adam Feiner has joined us in the studio. Our final thoughts for the NBA is, who are you sticking with in the playoffs, and who are you kind of bailing on?
Can you really bail on the Spurs despite the seed? I mean, they are the world champions. I know they're the 7th seed sitting right now?
6?
Or possibly
I think 6.
They're 6 seed right now.
I know things are so tightly packed in the West. You know, seeds 4 through 8.
Yeah, really even 3 through 8, really. Because there's 3 through 7. Because 7 is 3.5 games back of being the 3rd seed, so they're really all bunched up in there.
Right. I'm gonna stick with the Spurs. I mean, I can't really go against them. A couple dangerous teams. Dallas I like, Memphis I really like, and if Portland could kind of get their stuff together, that's a really dangerous team. I know they've been affected by the Aldridge thumb injury, so we'll see there. And see, it's hard to pick against the Hawks because they've just been so consistent.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna stick with the Cavs for now. All the talk firing of David Blatt, and that has gone away. I think things are starting to gel. It's kind of like LeBron's first year in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I compare it to that a lot. So I'm going to ride with them, but won't be surprised if Atlanta comes out on top.
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting to see that Atlanta-Cleveland matchup in the playoffs, possible Eastern Conference final matchup. For me, I'm going to stick with the Cavs and the Spurs. LeBron versus Spurs, we talked about that earlier. That's just what I'm sticking with. At first, I kind of was feeling the Bulls, and then Derrick Rose had to be Derrick Rose, and that all happened. So, by the Derrick Rose kind of loophole we have here on C4 Sports, that means I get to go with the Cavaliers. So I'm going LeBron versus the Spurs for the third year in a row, and I'm going to probably stick to that, unless there are some drastic changes that I see in the NBA before the playoffs start. So I think that's at least all the time we have right now for the NBA. On the other side of this break, since Mr. Adam Feiner is in studio, we have some Western Illinois baseball to talk about. So there we go. That fulfills our Western sports category. And then we'll end the show with some NHL. Obviously, I have a lot to say about that. Ryan, I know you have a lot to say as well. Adam, I'm sure you do as well.
I do.
All right, so please stay tuned to C4 Sports right here on 88.3 The Dog. And welcome back to C4 Sports right here on 88.3 The Dog. Mr. Adam Feiner is with us live in studio, the fourth member of C4 Sports, and you just got back from baseball practice, so that means it's time for the Western Illinois Leathernecks baseball update with Adam Feiner right there. Full
intro music.
No problem.
Let me see. I just got back from lifting, and that was after a practice, so baseball keeps me very busy. It's 6 days a week. Monday is normally the off day, but it's kept me busy, and it's kept our entire team busy and on our toes. You know, we started out the season in Tennessee, then we went to Auburn, Alabama, then we went to Georgia. So we're back playing at home now. Didn't go well over spring break at Wichita State. Wasn't what we wanted out of that, but we're trying to bounce back. IPFW, we should have really started to hammer in the second game. We won the first game pretty well. Our pitcher pitched very well, and really could have made a statement. Started out the conference 3-0, instead dropped the last two, and kind of the same thing. South Dakota State won on a walk-off the second game, and just didn't play well the first and third games. Not enough to win. We got a very nice chance here this weekend against the former league champion, North Dakota State, to win those three and kind of get back on track and really make a statement in the Summit League.
Who would you say has kind of been your best position player and your best pitcher so far this season?
I'll start with the pitcher. See, that's kind of hard to describe because I think every weekend there's been a different one. We use 3, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's hard to say, really. We had a Summit League Pitcher of the Week in sophomore Preston Church, and that was against Evansville. He threw in Georgia.
Okay.
He threw 8 scoreless, really pitched a nice ball game, and we split with them. So we were happy about that. Joe Muller-DeLaro picked up he went, I think, 8 innings as well against IPFW in the first game of that.
Okay.
Got that series rolling nice. And Tom Constant had a very nice outing in the second game of the South Dakota State series. And we didn't really help him with the bats, 1-1 going in past the 13th, 1 in 14 on a walk-off wild pitch. But I would say a combination of all 3 of those guys. So I think, and there's a couple of pitchers who have pitched really well out of the pen. So I think our pitching staff is really going to keep us in ball games. If we can get the key hits, it's if we can play clean baseball. As far as the offensive side, I think sophomore shortstop, he's made the transition to shortstop this year with the drafting of a couple of our players.
Yeah.
Our shortstop in particular, sophomore Chris Tashida has really been our best hitter. You could put 1 and 1A with junior Peyton Jeffers. When he's not playing second and he's not playing good defense there, he's DHing. We like to have those two both in the lineup and producing for us.
All right. Coming up, what do you expect from these next couple of games in the next week or two?
Well, it all starts this weekend with North Dakota State, and we definitely want to make a statement. We we've made pretty good steps towards doing that. We played Illinois Springfield, which is a D2 school, yesterday, and really put the hurt on them, 14-1, and it could have been 30-1, honestly. We called off the Dogs, but another good practice, another good lift today, so we're feeling good about North Dakota State. That's a series where we're looking to make a statement and get back on track, going to play good baseball. And then next week on Wednesday we play Iowa in Macomb, so if you want to come out there, see a Big Ten school.
Big game.
We beat them last year, so looking to follow up with that. And I believe we are in Omaha the next weekend. So kind of a key stretch. I know it's a long season, but these conference games are very important, especially since we're a school where we're not going to play in the Summit League tournament and lose and get an automatic bid. You know, we need to win the Summit to get into a regional.
Any key injuries or bad injuries for you guys so far this season that have really affected the team?
We've really avoided the injury bug. I know we had a couple nagging things in the fall, and we've got a couple of pitchers whose arms are dragging a little bit, but we've avoided that, and that's really helped us because now we can just focus on playing clean baseball, really making quality pitches, quality at bats, instead of having to shuffle the lineup around.
Oh, nothing. I was just knocking on wood so that no players would get injured.
Yes.
I mean, he said it because they haven't had the injury bug yet.
And superstition is rampant in baseball.
So now if somebody gets injured, we know it's his fault. He said it. You asked the question. He could have said, "Oh, we've been pretty good," because this guy kind of got hurt and done that. But he goes "Oh, we've done really good without injuries."
Yeah.
Come on, Adam.
So I guess I just totally jinxed everybody.
So. All right, good. It's not my fault. I was a little worried it was going to be put on me.
But what happens if he gets injured?
Then
that's karma?
Maybe.
Karma.
Maybe.
More time spent here, I guess.
I can't go to practice.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but...
Right.
I guess my final question would be, which team looks the strongest in the Summit League so far this year?
I would have to say newcomer Oral Roberts, and that's a team that played in the Summit League, and then, I can't think of where they went. Possibly the Missouri Valley. I don't want to say that for sure, but they've looked really strong, and they've played great competition in the off season, the non-conference. So they're looking strong. They dominated the Summit League in their first stint. So they're a contender. Can't discount North Dakota State. Omaha is normally pretty good. Honestly, I think we've got a decent shot if we play clean baseball, handle the baseball in the field, and do well at the plate. Put pressure on other teams, avoid strikeouts, make quality pitches.
Okay. What about on the national level? If you're looking at kind of the big-time schools that are going to be, I guess, competing for a national championship. I don't know how much you keep up with that in college baseball. Who has kind of been the powerhouse so far this season?
Well, rightfully so. Vanderbilt won the College World Series last year, and they started out the season at number 1 and have held that. Except Illinois State went down to Vanderbilt and beat them 2 out of 1. I want to say, or at least one game. I know, and pretty bad. So. That's a team that's always there. Virginia is good. I know you could see Wichita State. We played them over spring break, and they really handed it to us. But that's a team that's not what they were back in the 90s and 80s, but that's a team to watch out for. You could say a mid-major from a conference around here in the Missouri Valley is newcomer to that league, Dallas Baptist. I know I said Oral Roberts was, possibly the best team in the Summit League, while Dallas Baptist beat them 18-0 in a game. So if you're looking for a mid-major, that could be a team. Louisville's always good. Texas is good.
I saw TCU number 1 now.
Yep.
Since Vanderbilt, you said Vanderbilt lost. I saw them this weekend. I thought I saw TCU as the number 1.
Okay.
So.
Right. And also don't discount South Carolina. That's a team that went back-to-back. So I would look for them as well. And you can't discount any of the California schools. It's just that Southern teams have a profound advantage. I mean, we were on the road for the first 3 weekends. So
yeah, with that warm weather.
Right.
And then speaking of the Southern teams and warm weather, I don't know how much of spring training are to, I guess, baseball experts. You guys can be baseball experts, especially.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah,
sure.
I'll send my application to baseball tonight now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, you can put me as a reference.
Okay, I'll put you down as a reference.
I'll definitely give you a call back then.
Okay.
But how much spring training have you guys watched? Opening day is almost around the corner. I think opening
10
night.
days.
Opening night.
10 days.
Yeah. Normally it's on my birthday. Normally, which would be next Tuesday, but March
they pushed
31st.
it back. It's kind of weird that it's Easter night that it starts. I don't think it's ever been that way.
All right, I don't know how much spring training you guys have watched. What have been your thoughts from what you've seen in spring training heading into the start of this season?
I have not watched much. I really don't. I'll watch the shows, watch the highlights.
Yeah.
But you have so many players that they're just playing split squads and all that stuff. But Cardinals look good. But I have one thing to say. Chicago Cub fans, get off the bandwagon. Chris Bryant ain't going to be your hero this year. It's spring training. He's hit 10 home runs. Whoopie-doo. Until he starts doing that in the real season, don't come talk to me because he's not going to hit 55, 60 home runs this year. It's just not. He's hitting home runs off pitchers. He's not going to face it all unless they come up in the minors from other teams.
Yeah.
So just go back into your hole for a while. You're going to stink this year, even though I have you play as a wild card play team at the end of the season.
At least
You'll be on the line at the last season, but 5.5 games back in the last week. But that's it. But yeah, I don't really watch much. Not much injuries this year. I'm happy for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Last year was just Tommy John surgery left and right.
Well, wasn't there at least 2 that got, I think, Tommy John's or at least something? Darvish, wasn't he one?
Darvish was bitten by it. But otherwise, and there were a rash early in the season.
Yeah.
Last year. And a lot of young good ones, too. Yeah. So.
What about the Cubs got John Lester, I believe.
They did.
I saw some story about him the other day. I don't know if anything had occurred with him.
Tendonitis.
Okay.
I believe. And that's just...
Nothing
serious. But with the amount of money they're paying him, they're going to do every measure.
Yeah, they're going to do everything.
Necessary.
Yeah. So, I'm ready for the regular season to start. Maybe next week. Are you going to be here next week?
We'll be in... Well, we might be back. We'll be in Omaha.
Okay.
Over the weekend, but I'll definitely try to catch as much baseball as I can.
Okay.
I know I've been...
So next week we'll come up with our predictions of how we think the season's going to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll be our little preview.
All right.
So
what about? Have you seen? Because I know you're both Cardinals fans. We can end on this. Thoughts about the Cardinals spring training? If you've only seen highlights.
I think it looks good. I think the pitching is coming back. Michael Walker's looked good this season. It's just going to be on Adam Wainwright. He's looked good, but he had that little stomach, like something with the gut. I forget what it was. It wasn't an appendectomy type thing, but it was something in the midsection that he had problems with. So he couldn't pitch for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just finally starting to get back. So I think the pitching, but I think the bats are going to have to come alive this year. And I think Hayward's pickup is great this year for that.
I think so, too. I think Hayward's a much more ready option than what they had, and unfortunately, with the situation that they were put in right field with Oscar Taveras' tragic death. But I think they look good. And I think there's not as much pop as what there used to be. Matt Adams is your big back, but Holiday's getting older.
It's going to see what I like to see what Adams and Wong are going to do this year,
right.
And see if they're going to keep that success from the postseason last year, and they're going to turn it through a full season. Plus John Jay. I'm starting to become a John Jay fan.
I like what I've seen out of Wong, and even Grichuk could break into the lineup. And I like what I've seen from him at the major league level and spring training. So. You also have to remember that they didn't have Molina last year for a good majority of the season. So
And he was kind of a non-factor in the postseason too.
Right.
I think he was still
trying to get back.
Yeah.
So
okay,
I think as far as I can see, that's the.
But your White Sox.
I've heard I'm
gonna go out on a bold statement. They're going to be my team of the Central to win.
Really? Because I've heard good things about them. I saw ESPN said they had the possibility to be this year's Royals from what the Royals did last year.
I don't see.
I know they got Adam LaRoche.
They got
Samardzija. Yep.
I think that really helps. I like that deal from them. I think they did more great
Kenny
moves
Williams,
on the offseason than the Cubs did.
Yeah, it was a very active offseason for GM Kenny Williams. So I've been a fan of him for a while, and my dad's a huge Sox fan. That's the reason I'm a Sox fan. I don't watch much baseball. I actually was watching the game. They were losing to the Dodgers right before I came here, 5-1. I had that turned on while I was eating before I came here, and I mean I follow them on social media and everything, so I kind of keep up with what they're doing. I've heard good things about them, so maybe I will be watching some baseball. I do have to say, I say it every time. The last full game of baseball I watched, full game start to finish, was 10 years ago. The Game 4 of the 2005 World Series when the Sox won.
You might have to actually watch some this year because I think you're going to see some playoff games.
You said that's the last full game you watched?
Yeah, full game.
Last full game I watched was, I know it was Cardinals-Rangers World Series. Did that go 7?
2011. Yes, it did.
They go 7? Yeah. Game 7.
Wow.
All right.
He's more into baseball than you.
He is. I never claimed to be.
But you have him on hockey by far.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, obviously.
Yeah.
Speaking of hockey, that is what is on tab next for C4 Sports at the other side of this break. So if you are a hockey fan or a sports fan in general, just go ahead and keep it here. You're listening to C4 Sports on 88.3 The Dog. And welcome back to C4 Sports on 88.3 The Dog. We just talking about radio station. Almost said the wrong name. Not that much. 88.3 FM here in Macomb, Illinois. Matt, Darius, Ryan, and Adam coming at you for this last, 25 minutes now. And that space will be taken up with my favorite sport, that is hockey. And we're going to be talking about the NHL, which is really all I have been watching this season. So this is kind of what I have been waiting for. This is where I get to talk until I guess run out of breath, basically. So yeah, it's been interesting. We're coming down to the playoffs. Only a few games remain. It looks like most teams are at either 74 games played or 73 games played out of 82. So this is the final playoff push. I believe as it stands right now, let me see, I have it pulled up. The reigning Stanley Cup champions are not in the playoffs right now. The Kings would not be in the playoffs if it ended right now like this. So, because I think Calgary is ahead of them in their own division, and then it is Minnesota and Winnipeg, and from our division are the two wild card spots right now. So, I mean, the Kings have been turning it on, but is it too little, too late for the reigning Cup champs? Ryan, nope. Adam, okay, Adam.
Inconsistency, and. You got a hot goaltender, really.
Well, now they do. That wasn't the case at the start of the year.
Right. You got a hot goaltender now, but exactly. I mean, it is a long season. It's a lot of games packed in not a lot of time.
Yeah.
But you can't dig yourself a hole. The Kings are going to learn that the hard way because the Western Conference in hockey, I don't want to compare it directly to the Western Conference in the NBA, but there's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of quality teams. I mean, and surprise teams. Calgary has jumped up there. Winnipeg has jumped up there.
Yeah, Calgary, wow.
So, and they've maintained.
Vancouver at 90 points.
Right.
As well.
Those are all three teams that weren't projected to reach the playoffs, but, the Kings faltering has really opened the door for those teams. So, the Kings have nobody to blame but themselves. They can't look at Calgary or Vancouver and say, well, that's the reason we're not going to make the playoffs. It's they dug themselves too big of a hole for them to get out of.
Yeah, especially with Jonathan Quick. He has been playing better lately, but he had a rough start to the season. I know he got benched a few times earlier in the year, and personally, I can't stand the Kings. I think this is what I have said about LA, especially talking with my brother, who is also a ginormous hockey fan. This is what we were talking about all spring break, pretty much. was hockey, and especially about the Kings. If they are able to make the playoffs, I think it's Chicago and LA in the conference final, because I think those are both playoff teams that turn on. Though the Blackhawks are kind of annoying me right now, which they've done all season. Sometimes I'm really high on them, other times real low. So that's a separate point that we will probably get to in a little bit. But I could see if LA makes it, despite all the struggles this year, despite everything they go through, the Hawks and the Kings especially are just teams. The playoffs come, it's go time for them. And they're just two teams that are built for the playoffs. I think if LA makes the playoffs, they do some damage. Even if it comes to last year. They had all the first 3 rounds until they hit the Cup final. They won 7 games in all 3 rounds. Even if it's a grind-em-out series like that, they're just built for the playoffs. They have players with experience. They know how to win. I cannot stand the Kings, but I think if they make the playoffs, it's trouble. I am hoping and praying that the Kings do not make the playoffs, because I think they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup, honestly, if they make the playoffs. It all rides, obviously, on how well Jonathan Quick plays. But, I mean, you got Drew Doughty, the depth down the middle with Carter, Kopitar, Gaborik, Toffoli, all these guys. I already said Jeff Carter. These guys centering. You have to send Mike Richards down to the minors, who just got called up now for the playoff push. But when you send Mike Richards down, who captained that Philadelphia team that the Hawks beat in 2010, a guy who captained a Stanley Cup finalist, I mean, if he goes down to the minors, you obviously have the depth to make a run. And I kind of agree with you, Adam. They have nobody to blame but themselves this year. The talent, the coaching, Daryl Sutter. I think Sutter and Quenneville are the 2 best coaches in the NHL right now as it stands. There's a lot of good guys. I like Ken Hitchcock a lot for the Blues. For me, he might be the coach of the year this year, is Ken Hitchcock in St. Louis. But there's a lot of good coaches out there. But Quenneville and I think Sutter, especially over the past 3-4 years, they've pulled away from everybody else in the NHL. So there's really no reason the Kings are even outside looking in right now on the playoff picture.
Yeah, they're only 2 points out. So I don't know how the game situation is if they have one more game left.
They're at 73 right now, and I got to switch over to look at the other teams. That would be Winnipeg. Really, we'll look at Winnipeg and Minnesota for that wild card spot. Minnesota has 74 and Winnipeg has 74, so they're a game behind.
So they have one more game, so they could be tied with Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and I don't know how ties work.
I think it's head-to-head record and then road wins, I believe, is the.
So yeah, so I mean, I still think that I'm guessing that the Kings will squeak by.
I think they will too. I think the
Kings will. They have the experience. I think they'll squeak in.
They're also only a point behind Calgary for their own divisional race with the way the playoffs work right now.
And does Calgary have a game in hand too?
Calgary, let me double check. The Flames, they're at 74 as well.
So just one win and they're ahead, and Calgary's got to do the work. So I see both Calgary and probably both of those teams getting in. I'm going to say that.
Who do you see on the outside then? Winnipeg?
Yeah. Because I think they're 3 points above.
Mm-hmm. Behind Minnesota.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Winnipeg's out, but good run, Winnipeg.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot better than I thought. I thought it was going to be Colorado again. So.
Yeah, wow, what happened to the Avalanche? The Avalanche and I'd say Maple Leafs. don't even want to put them in the same kind of category with the debacle that is the Toronto Maple Leafs. But still, after winning the Central last year, and they kind of ended up running away with it, with especially the injuries to the Blues after the Blues kind of gave that away at the end of last season. Colorado won that pretty easily, and then they got upset in 7 games, overtime in 7 games to Minnesota last year. But everybody was kind of high on Colorado. They signed Iginla. They did lose Paul Stastny to St. Louis, and that ended up hurting them a lot more than I think anybody really thought they would. And the goaltending just kind of hasn't been the same for them this year, really. If you watched any Avalanche games, we'll switch to the Eastern Conference real quick. Montreal right now leading the President's Trophy race by 1 point over the Blues and the Ducks in the Western Conference. The Canadiens have 100 points to 99 for those two. I think Tampa also has 99 as well. The Montreal was, I think, your pick for the Cup, Ryan, in the preseason.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look on my piece of paper back at home.
I know I had the Canadiens coming out of the East, losing to the Blackhawks to start this season. That was my first pick. My second pick was then beating the Blues was my second pick. So I had Montreal coming out of the East either way. Another team with a slow start, but boy, have they turned it around. And really, it's been because of Carey Price. The 2 Vezina Trophy finalists, really the only 2 guys who can win it, I'd say, at this point, is Pekka Rinne in Nashville or Carey Price in Montreal. And honestly, I'd give my nod to Carey Price this year out of anybody else. I know you like the Canadiens a lot, Ryan.
Yeah, I just always say that if it's the Blues not going to win, I'd like it to go back to one of the Canadian teams. It's been a while since they've had a champion. And it'd go back to its original home. To Montreal, so that would be nice. And it would be nice for Subban to have.
Yeah, I do love PK Subban.
Right. I think, and the Canadians are great now, but a team that's really come on hot is New York.
Yeah. They've slowed down a little bit recently.
But they're kind of starting to get it going. And with the playoff experience that they have with Callahan and Lundqvist, I don't think you can really count them out. I mean, I'm really hoping for an Eastern Conference Finals in Montreal and New York because you're going to see two of the world's greatest goaltenders square off, and two offenses very capable of lighting up the scoreboard. So I think that would be fun, really. And kind of the wild card that people don't know about is Tampa. So
yeah.
It'll be fun to watch, the Eastern Conference. I know that's a conference that has been down in recent years.
Yeah, something I wanted to ask you guys about, Adam, you give me the perfect segue into it, has been the secondary goaltending this year, because you talk about having the two best goaltenders in Price and Lundqvist. Lundqvist sure has not played like that this year if you followed the Rangers, and he's been hurt for quite a while after taking a slap shot to the throat that almost killed him. He's been out for quite some time, and Cam Talbot has stepped in for the Rangers, and he has played lights out. You look at guys like that, the Hamburglar Hammond up in Ottawa, who has been killing it, getting cheeseburgers thrown at him on the ice when he gets named the star of the game in Ottawa. I find that funny.
It's funny, and then one of his players pick it up from the ice.
Yeah.
You don't know what's been on that ice, and you don't know what kind of fan threw that there.
Exactly.
And he picks it up and starts eating it. I'm going
funny.
like...
Yeah.
But it's funny to see. I don't know how he got the nickname.
It has to go with his last name and the way he was, I think, robbing people of goals. The Hamburglar, I guess. And he was Hammond is his last name. But just the point I was trying to make, too, was the secondary goaltending. Devin Dubnyk in Minnesota, people are saying could be a Vezina finalist with the resurgence the Wild have had, because they were out of the playoffs for a long time. They're saying Mike Yeo, the head coach of Minnesota, should be fired. He's salvaged his job, and they're in a playoff spot right now. Looks like they could clinch a playoff spot here pretty soon. The secondary goaltending has really kind of been surprising this year. Even like Ben Scrivens, I think, up in Edmonton, has been pretty impressive. You get guys like that. So, any thoughts on maybe a new era of goaltending coming up here in the NHL?
It's interesting, and you can almost compare it to kind of the two-quarterback system some teams use in the NFL a little bit. You know, it is a long season. As I said earlier, it's a lot of games in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah.
You know? They look at it and says, well, it goes, from in the fall all the way to the summer. Well, still, I mean, it's a lot of skating. It's a lot of hard work, these guys. They're taking hits every time. So I think it could be a new trend in the NHL. The NFL has really adopted the two running back system. You don't see the workhorse anymore. That could be a thing where you don't see the workhorse goaltender. I mean, the Lundqvists, the Quicks, the Crawfords could be some of the last ones.
Yeah.
And you're looking at a prime example in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
You're saying Allen and Elliott, and if it wasn't for their goal scoring this year, the Blues would probably be out looking in, playoff-wise, or they'd be in that 8th seed.
I think enough talent they'd still make it.
Yeah, they'd still make it, but I see an early exit. A lot of players will stay, but I guess I see the two goalies leaving. One of them leaving, and they're going to... I don't know what they're going to do because they got to re-sign Tarasenko too. But they're going to get a primetime goalie because they tried it last year and it didn't work out. And they said, because this two system's going to work, we just got to give them playing time. And they've stepped up. They're looking good. But I don't think you can do a two-goalie system in the playoffs. You just don't see it. Unless the Blues can pull it off, because I don't know how they're going to do that. So.
Yeah, you kind of went right into my next topic, was talking about St. Louis and Chicago, kind of the two teams we represent here on the air. St. Louis has been playing pretty well as of late. The Central was slumping here the past couple of weeks.
They were
really,
all
the Predators,
losing,
Hawks,
and I was
Blues,
like, they were all losing.
Yeah, especially the Predators, too. I was going to ask you about that, because now St. Louis has jumped into that top spot in the Central with the Predators just dropping off, which does not surprise me. I don't really know why everybody was so high on Nashville. I understand they played well for a long time, yes, but they're another team. I say in hockey, you're built for the playoffs. That's really kind of what you want to do. Everybody wants to achieve that model. The Hawks and Kings really are the two, I think, model teams right now for the NHL. Even maybe the Bruins as well, making 2 Cup finals, winning it in 11. They're another team that's built for the playoffs. I think the Bruins right now, they're on the outside looking in. So that is slightly interesting. Yeah, they're 1 point out of the playoffs right now to Ottawa, thanks to, I think, the Hamburglar over there. But you're kind of built for the playoffs, and you look at a team like Nashville, they're not built for the playoffs. They're not ready yet. So that's why I'm even surprised they had that streak that they put together atop the Central.
Yeah, last time we were here, I said that we kind of had bold statements, and I said that either the Blues or the Blackhawks are going to be number one, and I said that the Blues and Blackhawks will not play in the first round this year at all, and I don't see that happening, even though it's so close, and one game could go either way.
Yeah.
But I still think that Chicago could come up and take number two.
Yeah.
Away. They would they need to do some serious work.
Yeah.
But I think so that they could pull that off.
Yeah. The Hawks need to find some consistency, and I'm okay. Actually, I wish the season ended today, because as a Blackhawks fan, I would not want to play St. Louis, obviously. I think they're the best team other than the Blackhawks in the Central. I don't want to play them. I want to play them as late as possible. But I'd rather play Nashville. I do not think Nashville's built for the playoffs. I think Winnipeg is a tougher matchup than the Predators are, because the Predators play similar to the Blackhawks, that kind of skill team, and we can take care of them no problem.
And even when you go on the road, you can have a home crowd.
Yeah, exactly.
Because even the Blues travel well to Nashville, and I don't know how that's possible. Because if you hear their games on radio, sometimes you can hear the "Let's Go Blues," and then they do that. They even do the towel thing, like 1, 2, 3 when they score goals, and you can hear us plain as day on the radio because there's just no crowd there.
Well, yeah, that's also a valid thing. I didn't even think of that. Nashville, they actually had that whole thing for the Blackhawks. They said keep out the red in Nashville because of how many Hawks fans go. If you're trying to buy a ticket to a Nashville Predators Blackhawks game in Nashville, you have to buy a ticket to another game, so you can't be a Hawks fan and just buy a single ticket. And that's something they did. So that's really a good point, too, is the fan base aspect. But kind of what I was looking at, too, is the Hawks. We got dominated by Winnipeg this year. If we're going to talk even about the lower-seeded teams, I think we only were able to win 1 of 4 against Winnipeg or 1 of 5 against the Jets, and they really took it to the Hawks multiple times. They had 4-1, 5-0 wins against Chicago, in Chicago, too, at the United Center, which is very surprising, just because they're a team that matches up well with the Blackhawks. They got some good goaltending as well. Dustin Byfuglien is healthy tonight for the Jets in their game. He's really had a heck of a season, whether he's playing defense or winger. I really like Byfuglien. He's that one guy from the 2010 team that I think the Hawks miss. Maybe Ladd's become a nice player, also in Winnipeg, their captain, but Byfuglien's really the one guy that you miss. So really, out of all those possible matchups right now, I wish the season ended right now, because I think Nashville's the perfect matchup, at least for the Blackhawks. That's who I would want to play right now. Not the Blues, not the Jets, maybe not even Minnesota, because I think Minnesota is coming on. They've underachieved heavily this year, and they're starting to find their form.
There's no way you would face them anyway.
Yeah. We're just looking at the Central, so
that's why I
kind of
want.
The matchup.
I don't, even though I'm saying that Kings are going to squeak in.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that Anaheim takes that. Takes the points on the Western Conference.
Yeah, I would much rather face
the Blues
the
would get, because Blues would take the 7th seed.
Yeah.
And then the 8th seed, LA would go and play Anaheim, and I don't think I'd want to play the Kings first round.
No way, not a chance.
No, absolutely not. I don't think you want to play the defending Cup champs, no matter what their seed. Kind of the same thing in the NBA with the Spurs. I don't think, no matter what they are, their track record speaks for itself. And I wouldn't go against their coach, or if their goaltender's hot, I wouldn't go against them.
All right. Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I do not want the Kings to get in. I'm rooting against them every single night, even if they're playing the Blues. I'm rooting for the Blues over the Kings. It hurts me to do that, even though I dislike both of them a lot. They're playing the Jets. They're playing the Predators. I'm rooting for any of those teams over the Kings, because I don't want to see them in. Because I do think being a Hawks fan, have it in my heart that the Hawks will just play well with or without Patrick Kane in the playoffs. I think they're good enough to at least win one series, and then by then maybe Patrick Kane comes back and makes an impact. But
could he be out for the whole playoffs?
He could be, but I don't think he's going to be. He should be back. The soonest would be second round, but they're saying realistically conference finals or Stanley Cup finals if they go that far. But apparently he's making very good. He's skating again right now. He's skating already. So yeah, I agree with you guys. I do not want the Kings in there. As a, I guess, not Kings fan, as all of us here are, that would help our teams if the Kings don't make it in. And real quick, our final talking point would be the Eastern Conference. We have the playoff matchups. As it stands right now, Islanders, Penguins, Rangers, Capitals, that's my team to watch out for. Maybe if it's not the Canadiens. I like what I've seen from Washington a lot, now that they actually play defense under Barry Trotz. Lightning and Red Wings, and then Ottawa and the Canadiens. That would be a great matchup. They're only about an hour apart. Both speak French. So that would be kind of interesting. That would be the playoff matchup I would watch, other than the Hawks one would be Montreal and Ottawa. So what do you guys see over there on the Eastern Conference?
I'm going to go the one series you listed before that, and Detroit and Tampa Bay. Because that's a young Tampa Bay team. That's a team that kind of lights up scoreboards. Steven Stamkos there. And they've actually gotten very good goaltending.
Ben Bishop,
He's been fantastic.
He's one of the biggest goalies in the NHL. Isn't he like 6'7", something like 6'6"? Yeah.
He's huge. Just a huge force in the net. But I think that's a matchup where I like Tampa, actually. Yeah. Even though Detroit has all the experiences and they've got the tradition, I don't think they've got what it takes to really take down Tampa. But I think it's kind of, new wave hockey where Florida hockey has actually been decent.
Yeah, the Panthers are making a push.
I know they're making a push, and Tampa's been great all year. So it's kind of the old guard versus the new guard, and I think that's going to be interesting to watch.
I'm going Canadians. I haven't waved at all. Maybe a little bit when they were struggling. But I'm going to go Canadians all the way.
Just looking at the Eastern Conference, these are some great... I actually kind of prefer the Eastern Conference playoff matchups. I think that's better TV as a neutral fan than the Western Conference, actually. Montreal and Ottawa, you get the two French-Canadian teams. Tampa Bay and Detroit would be, like you said, Ryan, a very interesting matchup. I do love the goal horn in Tampa Bay. That's one of my favorite. You get the lightning effect going off, and they just have a nice goal horn over there. And they actually get a good turnout for a Florida team. Maybe that's just because they're playing well, but... Washington and New York, maybe the hottest team. Like you, one of you, I think, Adam, you said how hot the Rangers have been as of late. Versus Washington, which has been my sleeper pick all season long. Seeing how they play
I had them in the playoffs.
East, yeah.
I know that. I think that was one of my votes there.
Yeah, definitely. They've really impressed me. Barry Trotz has really sparked that team. Ovechkin's leading the NHL in goals at 47. He might be the only guy to hit 50 this year. Maybe him and Nash, possibly, just those two. And then the Islanders and Penguins, you got Tavares, who was my preseason pick for MVP, now leading the NHL in point scoring. And I'd probably have to say he'd be my pick, him or Carey Price, for MVP this year. I actually saw Tavares play in person, though, when I went to the Hawks game over spring break, and he was completely shut down by Marian Hossa and the Hawks defense when the Hawks thropped him 4-1, which was a great game to watch. So that was a little interesting, but it would be Tavares versus Crosby, and Islanders versus Penguins. And I would watch every single game of all of those series, honestly. I would be glued to the TV, watching the Eastern Conference playoffs and then the Blackhawks as well. So there's a lot of good TV. I guess we only have a couple minutes left. Final thoughts here before the next time. We do have a show next week. It'll probably be easier to get into the playoffs. What are you guys looking forward to, I guess, for this playoff push right now?
If Blues are going to be number one and who's going to be the third or fourth,
the
7th or 8th seed in there, because I think the Blues will be number one.
Yeah.
The only two things that scares me is that there's 2 games left with Chicago.
Yeah.
And they're up by 5, I think, right now, with maybe a game in hand.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're up 5. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget if there's a game in hand or if they're even.
The Blues have played 74, and the Hawks actually have played less. We've only played 73.
Okay, so there's a 3-point difference if you win. Yeah, that scares me. They have to beat Chicago one of those games.
Yeah.
I look for possibly more enthusiasm just about hockey in general, because there's going to be a lot of good matchups, a lot of good players in this playoffs. I think you're going to see attendance up for these games. I think you're going to see viewership up for these games, and rightfully so. I think the NHL, from where it was about 10 years ago,
that lockout,
has really, really rebounded from that. Very nice. So you could actually see one day Gary Bettman not be booed.
Yeah, that would be the day when he's not booed as he walks out to hand out the Stanley Cup. I kind of like that, Adam. For me, other than the Blackhawks, you kind of touched on it, Ryan. For me being on the other end of that, obviously, I want to watch. What was it? Oh, the LA Kings. If the Kings make the playoffs, that's what I have my eye on. Other than the Blackhawks, I have my right eye on the Hawks, my left eye on the LA Kings. I'm telling you. The Kings make the playoffs. Watch out for them. So I guess that's all the time we have, and I'll speak for Darius on what he's going to watch. He's going to watch one game of hockey, especially once the playoffs roll around. Me and Ryan are sitting him down in front of the TV, and we'll get you some pizza. You're going to watch some hockey with us. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right, so that's all the time C4 Sports has right now. Once again, I'm Matt Langman at LManMatt93.
I am at Nobody Finer on Twitter, Adam Finer in real life.
I'm Ryan Mason. Please don't tweet.
And I'm Darius Hawkins. Y'all can find me at _Hawk_13.
And for C4 Sports, and I guess only our 3rd official show of the semester, that's all the time we have. Thank you for listening. Have a great night. And this is 88.3 The Dog.